myself out.
I am afraid of...
I'm terrified and paralyzed by...
I am deathly afraid of...
Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast with your host, me, Ryan Perrio. Hello, and welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perrio. This week, my guest is comedian Kinsey Ford. Kinsey is a comedian that originally hailed from the Wichita area. Actually, even further, she did improv back in Abilene, Kansas, which is closer to Kansas City. She does improv and stand-up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we discuss the differences in this episode. For her, we also talk about stand-up comedy in Wichita, her being a foodie, her love of scuba diving, and how she got into scuba diving while living in landlocked Kansas. And then we get into her fear of overeating. So let's get into that episode right now with Kinsey Ford. All right, my guest this week is comedian and improviser Kinsey Ford. Kinsey also works in the aero engineering industry as a project manager, which isn't near as exciting as doing improv comedy or stand-up comedy, whichever she's in the mood for. She's, from what I can tell, someone that grew up in high school drama, theater, and is just basically carried that on through life, it seems.
Correct.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I got some stuff done between... I had another interview this morning, which was at 9 o'clock, which, yeah, was very rough. And so I got all my grocery shopping done in between.
Nice.
So
that's important. Chores.
Yeah, it's life, keeping work-life balance here. And I need to clean eventually some point my apartment. So you are a comedian who originally, I guess, started in Wichita, Kansas, your hometown.
Not hometown, but yeah, in Wichita.
Okay, what is your hometown?
My hometown is Abilene, Kansas.
Okay. How far away from Wichita is Abilene?
About 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did you live in Abilene?
So I'm originally from Kansas City, but I moved to Abilene when I was probably 10, maybe.
Okay.
So that's my hometown. I've been there for as long as it should be.
And so were you through high school there too? Like everything? Okay.
That's where I actually started, not stand-up, but comedy, because I started improv over in Abilene. They have their slogan is the only professional theater between Denver and Kansas City. So
interesting. So it's kind of a I guess stop on the performer that's going from town to town. Mm-hmm. So what drew you to doing theater?
Pretty much it was, small town. There really wasn't much to do. My sister, worked at the theater. So she's much older than I am. And so it was one of those things, I think, where my mom was like, your sister's doing theater, go do it so that I can just drop you both off and then not have to worry about you guys.
Okay.
So it was more like, you have to do something, choose what you want to do. And I chose mainly improv. So.
Okay. So as someone that does both improv and stand-up, mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the differences? Like, what do you feel you have to change about yourself to be in improv mode versus stand-up mode?
So with improv, you definitely have to be a little bit more bubbly, and it's all about energy. And with stand-up, you have to bring energy too, but I feel like there are definitely a lot of comedians that don't have to do that. With improv, I would say it's also a little bit more, but firstly, it's a team aspect. Mm-hmm. So with stand-up, you just basically are by yourself. So whatever you do, you have to rely on yourself. With improv, you definitely are relying on the other players to help get you wherever you want to go. I'd say the thing that I don't like about improv is that you have to be a lot more PC, I guess, or like really you have to watch what you're doing. Whereas with stand-up, it's kind of whatever you want to say, go ahead and say it. I mean, people may not like it, but you chose to do it. So it's all on you.
Okay. So do you think it's just being in that mentality of a group and having a pack mentality on stage that prohibits like complete I guess, freedom as since we're going.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to let the team down. If you say something that everyone's like, oh, don't do that. Like, so.
The earth is flat. Ooh.
Yeah, little things like that. I mean, and a lot of people, especially at the clubs around here, everyone can also state at the beginning what like topics you may not want to talk about, which is perfectly fine. And then there's also like certain improv has a lot of really weird unwritten rules that you just kind of got to navigate around. And so if you're really, really good at improv, you break all of them, but you have to do it in the right way.
Yeah.
So
I feel like there are rules in stand-up too, and you learn to personalize with your own persona how you can bend or break or navigate those rules. And so I'm just interested to hear what your take is as somebody that actively participates in both almost simultaneously. I would say it could be in the same day. You do some improv and then jump over to stand up.
Yeah. I will say, so with improv, it's really funny because when you finish, everyone's like, oh, you did this and that was awesome. Oh, this happened and it was great. And everyone's like really positive. And then you switch over to stand up and like everybody hates you. Or not, that's the wrong way of putting it. But like if you get a fist pump, like you did well, dude.
Yeah. When I perform for other comics, my thing is I perform for silence, because silence as another comedian is them thinking, damn, I wish I'd have thought of that.
Yeah.
When you get that kind of reaction, that is definitely something that, it's just something it's a little giddy thing of trying to get things taken care of. And it's just, it's a tip to the cap basically of, because sometimes when you make people laugh, to me, that's you're maybe too dark or too edgy or too mean, because a comic has, I would say, duller sensitivities to some of this stuff. So,
yeah.
One comic when I started said to make an audience laugh, a comic can dress as an old lady and trips on stage. To make a comedian laugh, it has to be an old lady that trips and falls. And so
they want the dark humor part of it because they've seen everything else. Yeah. Makes sense.
So did you start stand up in Abilene, or did you go to Wichita for that?
No, I started in Wichita. Yeah. Okay. When I was working, but still in the aerospace industry.
Yep. Wichita, if people are aware, is like the or per capita more aeronautic engineers than any other city, because I guess during wartime, Wichita is so far in on each border basically, or any coast, that you're not going to get there. And so that's where they wanted to develop all their planes and stuff, was to be in flat, rural, can't get to
middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
No.
So how long did you perform in Wichita before you moved to Dallas?
Not long. Well, so I moved to Charleston. So I started in Wichita. Did about maybe 6 months, maybe a little bit less of a stint doing comedy there. And then I moved to Charleston, did about a year there, and then I moved over here.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm about 3 years in comedy wise.
Okay. So what would you say is there any difference between Wichita comedy and Dallas comedy, as far as someone that's done the early parts? What did you feel is different when you got to Dallas versus Wichita?
The opportunity, for sure. In Wichita and even Charleston, it was a good week if I did one open mic.
Okay.
Because there really wasn't there's one club in Wichita, they had one open mic once a month. So it was definitely, here you can do stand up every day if you want to. Just the sheer, and then also the shows as well. In Wichita, there's only a few people that really book shows over there. So, I mean, and same concept, it's about once a month.
Okay. So definitely you feel like this is just more of a hotbed of opportunity versus, which, to us, it seems like when you go to New York and LA, it seems like, well, we're hardly a drop in the bucket compared to how many open mics and stuff that they have potentially in Los Angeles. But I'm like, but we have 10% of what I would say LA has, and maybe even less than that from New York, of just, you're talking about 300 people 300 to 400 people doing stand-up in Dallas. And that's counting people that maybe, will say they do it here and there, or, claim they're a comic, but you only see them like every 6 months or something that proclaim that they're back, and then they're not. And in New York and LA, you're talking about 3,000 to 5,000. And that may or may not include actors and people that are TV personalities that are trying to add comedy to their resume of things they can do. So it just seems, from what I guess another comedy club here, TK's that just recently opened, they're from LA, and they talked about is that we don't have to hustle to get on stage here, so we can get really good at stand-up. But in Los Angeles, you have to like learn how to hustle to just get on stage to do stage time. And I thought that was an interesting like delve into it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, I haven't done anything in LA or New York, but I mean, that totally makes sense to me, that because it's just overwhelming with the amount of people.
Yeah.
Here to me, it's overwhelming because starting in Wichita with, like, as you were saying, there's 300 people here. There's maybe 50 people there that you see every week, or not every week, every month at the one comedy club open mic. Everybody goes there. If you miss it, then you've missed out on a whole month of doing like practicing material.
Okay. That's definitely, I've performed at that club, and it's really quaint and cozy, and it's definitely a different animal than what I thought it would be. I was a little nervous coming in, but it's a really fun place to hang out. Like it's a cool place to spend a weekend. I've done a lot of the eating that can be done at Wichita, and
there's some good food in Wichita for sure.
The Doodah Diner is definitely, if you are in Wichita, a must.
Yes. Especially their all-you-can-eat breakfast on Sundays.
I did not know it was all you could eat on Sundays. I've just usually gone on Thursday or Friday when I get in.
Yeah.
And just make sure I hit it, because I was like, man, I think I went Saturday morning, and it was hard to park, and I had to find
Well, there's really no parking lot.
Yeah. There's no part it's definitely something you have to look when you go down Kellogg to catch, because it's like a blip. It's a car dealership, and then there's like one entrance, and then you have
like maybe 5 parking spots, and there's a ton of people in there. You're like, where did everybody park? Yeah. You don't know.
So what is your favorite food spot out of Wichita? When, like, if you were to go back to Wichita and do a gig, where would you go pig out?
Yes. So I always forget what it's called. Hold on. I have them on Facebook. It's like Dodo. Yes. It's Dappery Dodo breakfast burritos. It's only open from like midnight to 2 a.m. in the back of a bar on Friday and Saturdays, but it's so good.
Okay. So they just offer breakfast burritos for people that are probably not going to be awake for breakfast.
Pretty much. So it's about they have a set menu, and they change it every month, and it's like 3 burritos. Sometimes, and it's generally breakfast, but sometimes they'll have like a fried rice and pork belly burrito or something like that. Like it's definitely hipster food, but it's so good. My favorite that I've ever had there was they had a pancake burrito with like maple syrup and bacon inside. It was good.
That does sound amazing. I'm just like their business model is just midnight to 2 a.m.
Yeah. Maybe it's 11, but yeah, I would really go like right after maybe seeing a comedy show and then running right over there. And yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely pitch that next time I'm in Wichita to remind me of that. And I'll do.
It's within walking distance too.
The bar is? Okay.
Yeah.
Even better. Mm-hmm. So what has been the highlight of your comedy career up to this point? Because you're only 2 or 3, I would say 3 years in with COVID.
Well, so the most, I try to find the highlights when I can. Because I know that especially with stand up, if you just keep having a goal and then you reach it and then you're like, go on to the next goal. But I'd say that I have a couple of really cool highlights. My first festival was recently. I went to the Aloha Comedy Festival. That was really fun. Got to do several shows in a matter of a couple of days. The first time that I got to host for a club on a weekend, that was a really cool highlight. I did that at Comedy Arena. And then I'd say my one of my favorite things is I if I ever wanted to, I can put it on my resume. I'm internationally performing because I performed in Canada, so that was cool.
Okay. So when you did the comedy fest in Hawaii, did they pay your airfare, or did you have to?
No, so I paid my airfare, but they gave a very large discount for staying. Okay. So yeah, didn't have to pay a lot of that really terrible tax that you have to do.
There's a tax?
Oh, Hawaii has a lot of like taxes everywhere. It's giant. Okay. So everything that you do there, you're going to get, I don't even know the exact number, but probably like a 10% tax on top of that, whatever you do, whatever you buy. Wow. So yeah.
How many days did you stay? Did you stay any extra after the festival just to kick it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So the festival was only 3 days. I was there for about a week and a half. I do a lot of scuba diving as well. So when I was there, I did some diving, which was great.
And where did you get into scuba diving? Because there's like no bodies of water in Kansas that I've seen.
Yeah, so that was a college. My college was really, really good on, I had a lot of study abroad opportunity. And another thing that they do is this like class option where you can just kind of go anywhere and take a class. And so I took scuba diving and I learned how to do that in Honduras for a little while in the summer. So
what school is this that had all these opportunities? Is it?
It's a tiny private college called Baker University, and it's just right outside of Kansas City. It's in a small town, like an hour away from Kansas City.
Okay. So that's it. That's awesome. And so you found and so you did that like you had to go to Honduras before you started scuba diving, or did they have some like, I guess, swimming pool kind of classes or?
No, I took like you have to do an online course ahead of time. And so I took the online course and then we went to Honduras and spent some time there. It was great.
How long were you in Honduras scuba diving?
Not that long, maybe like a week or so, maybe a little bit longer probably. Okay. So while we were there, we're learning about, cause it's a marine protected environment out in Utillo, which is where we were at. So we took the first 4 days, learned how to scuba. And then the last amount of time, we just were learning all about the animals that were there. And yeah, it was great.
Okay. What has been your favorite scuba moment then?
So I'll say two. One of my favorite things was I was doing an archaeological program in Israel right after I graduated college. And then when I was there, I got to explore an underground or an underwater port city. Mm-hmm. So I was doing some exploration there. And so it was very historical and learning all about like, there was so many boats that got sank. So there was like pottery and jewelry and everything like scattered throughout, and just like seeing kind of the art architecture that happened there. That was really cool. And then probably in Hawaii, I had one of my best dives there. It's a blackwater dive. Okay. And so you are strapped to the boat. So you're tied down to the boat in like black water. So there's no reefs, there's no nothing around you. It's just black water. And so you're 60 foot under, strapped to the boat. Underneath you is about 2,000 foot plus of open ocean. And so while we were there, we got to see like all the fun critters come out, plankton and squid. And I got to see seahorse that was just there, which is so crazy because normally they are stuck to a reef and they stay there their entire life. So that was really interesting. And the best thing was a 30-foot long whale shark.
Okay.
Which is really hard to come by.
How big were the squid?
Not big. Probably like that big.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit bigger. Not too, but they have like swarms of squid, so there's multiple of them.
Yeah, because I've heard that they could be like attacked.
They can be, yeah.
Did they like attack y'all guys, or they just no? Okay,
no.
Because I know like in Italy or something like that, like when they do the night I guess they go squid, I guess fishing or whatever however they corral them. That like if you fall off the boat, you're done for. And I don't
Luckily, nothing like that.
I don't know if maybe that's just something because they're feeding the squid to try to lure them in, that maybe it just gets to become a melee of of eating. And so I don't know if that's part of it, but it was like, I was like, man, that's kind of creepy that have like sea creatures and stuff like basically just grab you.
Yeah. So that's also a danger sometimes when people, because there are certain parts of the world where they'll feed, like for example, in the Atlantic, there's an overpopulation of lionfish, and it's an invasive species. And so I think at one point divers started trying to like feed nurse sharks, the lionfish, to try to get them to like start attacking them and eating them, because the population is just over expansive. But what happened is the nurse sharks just associated divers with food, and so they would like, it's a nurse shark, so it's like a giant catfish, it's not going to hurt you, but like at the same time it's still like sharks coming at you.
Yeah. So
there's certain areas where you'll have that.
Have you ever had a sea creature try to eat you or come at you at any part?
Yeah, no, so I used to do not a lot, but I used to do some spearfishing when I was in Charleston. I'd run down to Florida, and when you're there, generally you want to go with a group, and especially if you're, most of the time it's, you either do it via free diving, but then you can also do larger depths via scuba. And so there was one time when we went down to about 100 foot on scuba. One of my the people with me had gotten this really large grouper, and so we had him, and so we were all like surrounding him so that like we could protect him. And then there were bull sharks coming around because they can smell the blood, and so luckily they didn't get super close to us, but it was still one of those things where like you have the spear with you just in case if a shark gets too close, you can butt him like with the end of it. So you don't want to hurt him, but at the same time, you don't want him to
eat you.
Mistake your leg or something for the fish that they're trying to get. So
yeah, that to me that would be more of a fear than what you've brought to the table for for what you're afraid of.
To me, that's not a fear. To me, that's exciting. It's like, all right, we're gonna get to eat good for the next couple of days if we go down there, and it's exhilarating. It's fun.
Or the sharks are going to eat good. Like either way.
Yeah. They're big puppy dogs. They're fine.
Okay. They're big puppy dogs, but they have rows and rows of razor sharp teeth that say otherwise.
But they don't really want to eat you because you're warm blooded. They want something that's scaly with like they want fish. They don't want a human. That's why a lot of the times with surfers, when you see them with that like on an arm or something, it's because they bite and then they immediately release, going, "That's not what I want," because it thought you were a seal. So
yeah. So do you do surfing as well, or is it just scuba?
I am terrible at surfing. I have attempted it. I do not have the ab capacity to do that.
Okay.
I would stand up and immediately fall into the ocean. It's not a good thing.
It's a lot of balance.
Yeah, it's so much balance.
So it's amazing to me that you're like that you've kind of, I guess, lived in like a one-horse town, but yet you've been able to travel so much, or to, I guess, experience so much in like a short life, because you're what, 26, 27?
26, yeah.
So yeah, you've like lived almost a lifetime of adventures practically, and you're not even in your 30s.
I like hobbies, which is half of my problem of why I started stand up and why I do it all the time and why I did scuba. And I just like learning about a lot of stuff. And then once and especially the stuff that could potentially kill you, I like doing. Okay.
Well, I don't know if that'll happen in stand up, but fair enough. Yeah. Feels like it, but doesn't.
Yeah. The adrenaline rush is there. It's there for sure.
So you have a very interesting fear, which I had to do a double take when you typed that, because I was like, maybe she meant heating or something. But go ahead and tell the listenership what you're afraid of.
I'm afraid of overeating.
And it's such an interesting concept. Yeah. So
it's very specific, but I have my reasons for it.
Okay. So did you do something that caused this? Like, I'm very interested in the root of this fear of overeating.
So as a child, I grew up in my dad constantly, like we have a giant plate of food and I would eat slowly. And then if I didn't eat quick enough, my dad would be like, okay, great. And then steal my food basically. So I grew up like just shoving food in your mouth basically. And so I think I just learned the innate thing of like, not listening to my body saying that like, oh, you're full now, stop eating. Cause I was just eating as much as I could. And so I would constantly overeat as a kid. And then I would get these like really, really bad stomach aches to where I couldn't go play with friends. I would just be like lying on the ground, not being able to really move for a while. And so, and that actually lasted, I had stomach, like 30 times when I couldn't go to school and I just had to stay home because I was just in a lot of pain. And that was before I even like became a woman and had, period cramps and all that to deal with too. So that happened. And then I tried figuring out, especially when I went to college, I tried figuring out like what kind of triggers that, if it's just overeating, if it's certain foods. So like I used to love coffee, but acidic stuff like really does upset my stomach. So I gave up coffee for a while. And then in college, I just learned that like if I don't eat as much, I won't have as bad of a stomach ache. So then that happened, but then I was actually under eating. And so I was getting malnourished as well. So like, I'm just now in the process of still trying to figure out what the happy medium is. So that's my fear.
So did you ever like use that to your advantage to overeat and get stomach aches to avoid school? Like if there was a test or something you didn't study for, would you like eat a lot, then have the stomach ache so you didn't have to go to school that day?
I actually really liked school. That's what's really sad, especially as a young kid. And a lot of the times it was, I don't know why, but yeah, I loved reading and I loved learning and various stuff like that. So I never really wanted to get away from going to school.
Okay.
So it generally never happened because I was a nerd.
Okay. So you're a nerd, but you were just basically traumatized by the pain and just like you would become hesitant to eat.
Yeah. Well, and it still happens to this day where like I'll eat something that just doesn't agree and like I'll get a stomach ache. And the worst is when I'm actually about to go on stage and I have a stomach ache. And then at that point, what do? And I am not ashamed to admit this. I've gotten to the point where if it's like a really, really bad stomach ache and I don't have time to like go home or like try to figure out what I need to do to get rid of it, I just go to the bathroom and lie down, which is kind of gross. But at the same time, like that's what you got to do. So
it's probably very gross. Like that.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 would not recommend. Like,
no, some places it's much cleaner than others. Like I would never, there are certain bars where I would never in a million years do that. But then there are other places like that I'm like, it seems fine. It's clean enough.
Do people find you just laying in there? Like, do they like?
Not normally. I'm good.
Like, no one's just come in and be like, are you what's?
Yeah. I've also gotten to where I can like kind of play it off. So I'm just like, oh, I lost like my glasses. I needed to pick them up.
As you're laying on your back, like I just lost my glasses.
I'm laying on my stomach. It's a stomach.
Okay. Do you throw your glasses so that it looks like you're trying to find your glasses so that you just take them off for just a brief moment and then,
yeah.
Like you're Velma from Scooby Doo but you're just really bad at it and just.
It's something similar to that. Yeah.
I didn't mean to lay on my stomach, but I'm looking for my glasses. So have you figured out like besides acidic, so is it just acidic food or have you like you got more of a pinpoint on it then?
I still haven't been able to really pinpoint other than just eating too much has been like the biggest thing. And then I do know that, when I drink, if I have a cup of coffee, I'm normally okay, but I used to like drink a lot of coffee, which definitely upset my stomach. I've gone through phases of like, I wouldn't eat dairy for a while. And then I brought it back in because I was still getting stomach aches even when I wasn't eating dairy. I gave up meat for a while, same concept. So the only thing that I haven't given up yet has been gluten, which I've been told could be my problem. But at the same time, I don't want to give it up because then I've also seen people that have given it up before getting some kind of diagnosis and then having to bring back on it. And then it becomes worse.
Okay.
So
if you take it out of your diet, it makes it worse when you introduce it back in, is what you're saying. Okay.
So that's one that I'm like waiting for like the last straw kind of to do that.
See, to me, it doesn't seem like it's gluten though, because if it was coffee, why would that be gluten? I feel like it's something lining wise that with your stomach that's maybe just not that gets, I guess, disrupted once you either have a certain capacity or this basically a rage, just aggressive amount of coffee or something along those lines. So If it's something acidic, then I would think it would be the same thing as if you had a lot of orange juice. It would do the same.
Possibly. I mean, I don't really drink orange juice, so maybe I could attempt, like, one day when I have nothing to do, drink a lot of orange juice.
Just drink orange juice and just see if the feelings of.
Yeah.
So, it's just fathoms to me. So it's like, what is your limit? Like, what do you think your limit is on, I guess, eating? Like, how do you know when to like curb? Like, I guess you're eating, the food's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
When do you?
That's been my biggest struggle, is that I'm also I'm a big foodie. I love to eat and I love to, like, try new stuff, and I've now luckily gotten better about just eating like if it's a large portion. I used to just eat all of it and then get a stomachache, and now I've gotten to the point where I'm, like, consciously trying to just slow my eating down and then only eat, like, I kind of separate. If I have like a pizza, for example, if I have a pizza at I got a pizza yesterday at Backdoor. I ate half of it, and I was like, I'm only going to eat from this half. And then I have other people be like, do you want a slice of pizza? Do you want this? Do you want that? That way that I make sure that I'm not going to eat all of it.
Okay. Yeah. So a whole pizza at Backdoor is
too much.
Okay. Interesting. I'm just, like, trying to. So do you have treatment plans, like, other than laying in random bathrooms across the country? Do you know, like, when you get home, like, have you ever tried, like, allergy pills or anything like that to see if it's a food allergy? Or
yeah, I've tried Benadryl. That doesn't help. I've tried Tums. That doesn't really help. I've tried like multiple, like, even there's, like, Gas-X, in case that was maybe something. Again, does not help. I have started seeing a gastroenterologist to try to, like, get down to the pinpoint of stuff, but so far no such luck either. The main things that help are, if I just lie down for a little bit, then, like, sometimes it can subside for a little bit and then it'll come back up later. Heat helps as well, but I've been trying to limit myself on that. I've been told that's not the greatest thing, is to constantly be heating your intestines. But those are the two main things. I've also, like Tylenol and even, like, all of the different pain medications I've tried as well. Doesn't help. So
okay. What has your gastroenterologist so far, like, thought about it? Like, what has his been?
So she actually has her thought or ideology is just that I am a slow processor of food. Mm-hmm. And so that she just thinks I'm really constipated. And so she's tried to, like, have laxatives, does not help, and various stuff like that. And so we're just right now, she took some blood of mine, so she's going to try and, like, test some of my levels, and it's very, like, a stool sample as well I've had to do, which was very awkward to take to back to my doctor, but I haven't seen those results yet either. So
okay, well,
that's where I'm at.
I applaud your courage on that.
On talking about that. Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say I've gotten a lot better about talking about this kind of stuff actually since diving. Mm-hmm. Freedivers specifically, we are very open with our digestive system because for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, freediving is when you take one large breath of air and then you dive down to your limit, whatever your limit may be, and then you come back up. So sometimes you are diving for multiple minutes, sometimes it's going to be a few seconds, and sometimes it's 10 foot, sometimes it's 80 foot. It just kind of depends. So when you're diving like that, your digestive system speeds up. And then when you have to use the restroom, when you're diving, that takes a lot more of your energy to be processing that instead of focusing on your air intake. So there's been times where we're on a boat and someone jumps in the water to just go to the bathroom right then and there. Like, yeah, it happens sometimes.
That's not where you're free diving though, right? That's just another area of, you're moving on to another area before you free dive. You're not free diving right there.
No, yeah. It's generally in between the dive. Yeah, no, you're not. I mean, when you gotta go, you gotta go. So I'm sure that does happen when you're free diving and someone just goes down river of you and then comes back for a little bit. But yeah, most of the time it's when we gotten back in the boat and then we're going to a new spot. Okay. That's generally what happens.
So what has been your deepest free dive? Like, what is your?
My deepest so far has been 70 foot.
What is that like to just be diving 70 feet into the water with one breath of air?
Oh, it's so you have to, first of all, you're not going to start by doing 70 foot. I started with attempting to do 15 for my first one.
Okay.
And then you just kind of gradually go from there. And so when you first start out and you do 15, you're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of nerve wracking. And then you go down and do it. A pool is like 8 foot deep. So it's really not that much when you go like baby steps kind of a thing. But the farther down you go, the more that you just kind of got to like think in your head, calm thoughts and relaxing. It's very much like meditation, because as soon as you start thinking about, oh, I'm going down 70 foot, you're not going to be able to do it. Because you very much amp yourself up to like, oh my gosh, I'm going to, and then you just get the excitement builds, but then also then your air intake builds as well. And so, yeah, you won't get that far down if you freak out.
So when you do that, can you like stay under, like at the bottom of a pool for like minutes at a time then? Like, can you?
So there's static breath holds that you can do. It's not, you can do a bottom of the pool. Most of the time you're in a wetsuit and then you're just kind of floating at the top with your head in the water. My max time there's I got to 4 minutes recently. So I got 4 minutes.
Okay.
Which isn't that long of a time. I've been kind of experimenting with some of at the dive shop that I work at. Been showing some people how to like some of the free diving techniques, and they've been able to hit 3 minutes, 3:30, 3:50. So it's not that impressive, but I like it. It's really fun.
Okay. What's your goal? Like, what's your goal minutes to get to?
So not necessarily that I have a goal, like I have to hit this amount of time. My goal right now is to just get my instructor rating in freediving so that I can do it more often and teach people how to do it here. Because in DFW, I think there used to be a freediving instructor, but I don't think that they're teaching anymore. So that's been my overall goal. But to do that, I have to take time off, go to Florida, and then spend weeks there. And then also you have to, I have hit for instructor rating, what I need to in terms of static, but not what I need to in terms of depth.
Okay.
I think that one is 80 or maybe 100 foot that you have to reach down. And that's my problem, is because I have trouble equalizing my ears. So it's a lot harder to get down.
When you say equalizing your ears, what does that mean?
So pressure, it's the same way when you're going up in an airplane and you are at that level for so long and you feel the pressure in your ear. So then you plug your nose and then it releases the pressure. Same thing happens when you are scuba or free diving. The pressure builds right there. So you have to release it from your sinuses. And there are multiple different techniques to it. The best free divers in the world can do a technique Frenzel, which is kind of like I can't do it, but it's like from the back of your throat. It's kind of like a sound that you make, and it just kind of releases all throughout your sinuses. And some people can just do it automatically without having to touch their nose or anything like that. But I have to do the Valsalva technique, which is what it's called.
Blow your nose,
Basically.
Wow. So there is another option to popping your ears that's not the, I guess, blow your nose technique.
Yeah. There's so many different techniques that you can try out and do. I'm really bad at all of them. So it's good.
Okay. So have you had like the stomach pains while you were trying to perform at stand up? Like you had a big show or something and.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's generally when I get on stage, I forget about it because of the adrenaline. And also I just got to focus on what I'm doing. But as soon as I get off on stage, that like the build up to getting on, and that once I leave the stage, then I'm like, yep, I got a stomach ache again. Luckily most of the time I can bear through it for the 5-10 minutes I'm up there though.
Okay. When you pregame, like how do you drive with it?
Driving is actually a lot easier with it because I'm hunched over, right? Because like when you're sitting, the problem is when I'm standing for a long period of time, because like it's when like if I'm squatting or if I'm sitting or if I'm bending over, like I'm still putting pressure in the area where I'm getting pain in. So that kind of helps subside. It's the same way with lying down. You're putting pressure on your stomach. And so it just kind of, I don't know the best way to explain it, but the pressure that's there definitely helps with the pain.
Okay.
But trying to stand fully upright is honestly some of the hardest to do. But when I'm on stage, like, I think that's also the theatrical person in me. Like, I can try to fake it till you make it for the 5-10 minutes that I have to. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I know when I have a stomach ache, driving is the worst because the seatbelt feels like it's just like constricting against my my gut, and like I squirm and I can't sit still.
So my suggestion to that, instead of like sitting upright when you're driving, hunch over, like over the steering wheel.
Okay.
That generally helps me. I also, this is something fun. I have a heating pad in there as well that is battery charged. So if I ever get a stomach ache when I'm in my car, I just pull that out.
Okay.
And that helps.
How often do you have these? Do you get these stomach aches?
Luckily, not as often as I used to, because again, I've been trying to get a lot better at it. Probably at least once a week is when I'm getting stomach aches now. It used to be a lot more. It used to be like 2 to 3 times every week.
Did your parents ever take you to the doctor for it, or they just think that it was...
Parents, well, I'll also say that my dad was very much of the mentality of like, you're not bleeding, you're fine, walk it off. Like that's, we never really went to the doctor unless it was like, you are actively bleeding and you need to go see somebody like right now.
Yeah. So if they thought they figured it was an emergency, then they would take you. But other than that, they were very skeptical, I guess, of modern medicine.
Yeah, not even modern medicine, just also their kid. I'd say it's like, oh, you're just overreacting. You're fine. Just lay down. You're okay. That kind of a thing. So.
Okay. Well, that's so like it just blows my mind, because I would think that like at some point that the consternation of it would be that, you know, maybe we should take her to something, because just to continue to like say, you know, I would understand if it was like maybe like once every 3 to 6 months, but if it was daily practically or multiple times in a week, I feel like at some point they would just bend and be like, okay, let's
go take her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's also, I think time period wise, both of my parents now, well, my mom is in her 60s now, not to share her age with the world, but they were both born in their 50s. Or both born in the 1950s. So I think it was also maybe just how they grew up too. It was like, you don't need to go to the doctor. You're okay. Not.
Yeah. It wasn't, I wasn't intimidating that they were insensitive. I would just was like, you know, maybe logically speaking, like at some point maybe it's something, and I guess they've you know endured and things like that, and hopefully it's nothing serious, and it all comes back as just something, hopefully not as a mystery, but at least something that you can simply do to kind of get away from.
I think it could also be because I was grew up in a very small town that like I don't remember them ever taking me to the doctor for it, but they could have. And not to put shame to the doctors in my small town, since I did say the name of that small town, that wasn't the best, I will say. I recently also was just a few months ago diagnosed with ADHD, and I've had that probably my whole life, and so didn't find that out until I was 26. Just various stuff, and I went to the doctor a lot as a kid for I have a lot of health issues. I used to have this thing called SVT, which is super tachycardia, and it was a heart condition. I didn't get diagnosed with that. I did when I was in middle school, but it took a while for them to figure out what that was, and it's a very common problem.
But is that a danger for your scuba diving?
Not anymore. I got it fixed. I got an ablation done when I was in college.
Okay.
So
I didn't know if that would be a problem.
No. So basically what happened is I had surgery done. They fixed the issue. I can still go and see a cardiologist every once in a while, but nope, I am normal and happy and healthy now. Okay.
Well, congratulations. I thank you for doing this, Kinsey. Where can people find you on social media if they were...
I am on Instagram at Kins 2.0.
Okay. That's the only one, like, no YouTube clips or anything available at this time?
Don't.
Okay.
No.
Any shows coming up that you want to...
I do. I have 2 in the DFW area coming up on April 3rd. I'll be at the Addison Improv for Dean Lewis and Friends Showcase. And then on the 9th, I believe, I will be at Hyena's Red Room for a competition.
Okay. Well, good luck on your competition. Thanks again for doing this, Kinsey. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks. Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
So that was Kinsey Ford. It's such a weird thing to live with like some people have such medical conditions and stuff that kind of prohibit their lifestyle from being everything maybe that they would want it to be, like just digestion and stuff. So being a foodie, imagine having stomach issues and things like that when you're a foodie and your passion is to try new and different cuisines, and just that lurking fear of this is going to hurt later. Like, I have indigestion, so I can kind of relate because I love hot wings and I love spicy food, but I also have indigestion, which causes extreme pain and later on. So check out Kinsey Ford at Kins 2.0 on Instagram. I'll have links to her social media in the show notes. Again, it was a fun conversation, and I just can't imagine dealing with that on a daily basis. That would just be so slightly uncomfortable. Maybe it's not the worst fear, it's not a gripping fear, but it's still something that makes you pause to live life here to your fullest, because you know that this could be, or I'm going through this right now, but I have a show in 20 minutes. Again, thanks for listening. I did stand-up comedy in a brewery and a dive bar this week. Both were incredibly fun. Thanks again to Todd Birdwell for booking me at the Tups Brewery and Jacob Marshall for booking me at MacGyver's in Burleson, Texas. Both shows were great. I enjoyed it. I had a great time. And then I had Taco Bell on the way home. And so now I'm living Kinsey's sphere right now, literally and figuratively. I'm in some pain a little bit, but that's the price you pay for fast food. It will be my last fast food for a while. I'm going to try to lose and get back in shape. I've had shoulder tendonitis for the last month or so, maybe a little over a month. And it's just, I feel like my body is either shutting down or I just can't support the weight that I have. And so I've got to work on getting that reduced so that I can hopefully reduce this shoulder pain, and hopefully the tendonitis will eventually fade in time. It comes and goes. And so at certain positions I hold my arm, it just all of a sudden just a rocking pain will come through my arm. And so I've been dealing with that. Still doing shows and things of that nature. I took some time off work just to kind of heal and just get away. And so that was a fun week. I had a 4-day weekend. It was great. Thanks again for the shows and all of that comes with that. I appreciate that. If you want to follow me, I am at Ryan Perio. Make sure you leave reviews for the show at Some Fear Fans. I thank you guys for listening to Some of All Fears, and have a wonderful week. And now some thank yous for the folks that make this show possible. Thanks to Barry Whitewater for my art and graphics. You can follow him on Instagram at bwhiteh2o. Get it? H2O, like water. You can also follow him on Facebook, Music. A huge thank you to Gunnar Olsen for the wonderful music provided for this podcast. You can follow him on Instagram at gunbuns, that's GUNBUNS, as well as his website, gunnarolsen.net. Check out some of the samples that he has recorded. They're amazing. He's an amazing percussionist. If you want to follow the show, we've got a Facebook group, Some of All Fears. Instagram, Twitter, you can find us at Some Fear Fans. If you have some feedback for the show, email me at somefearfans, SOMEFEARFANS @gmail.com. I'll be happy to take those into consideration. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. We can try to iron out some details and get that settled in. Give us some feedback. If on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, leave a review. It makes the show bigger, and it's not going anywhere. I'm going to record as many shows as I possibly can. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Ryan Perio. It's RyanPerio on all social media platforms. You can follow me there, and you can check me out at ryanperio.com, my website. I'll try to list upcoming shows there as well. It's been kind of spotty because as soon as I set it up, that's when the pandemic happened, and everything's kind of just in a holding pattern. Thanks again for listening to the Sum of All Fears podcast. Next week, we'll have another guest with another fear. Thanks for listening.